ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. So welcome to our Saturday morning session. We shall continue on our journey of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 14. Now verse number 19 onwards. Now this chapter, as we discussed, is highly practical chapter for each one of us. We can identify how we can, modify our conduct, our behavior, and make it better. And that all the symptoms are given here, how we can do that. Now, verse number 19, जिस समय दृष्टा तीनों गुणों के अतिरिक्त अन्य किसी को करता नहीं देखता और तीनों गुणों से अत्यंत परे सच्चिदानंद घन स्वरूप परमात्मा को तत्व से जानता है, उस समय वह मेरे स्वरूप को प्राप्त होता है. Now this is what we call Trigunatit or Kalatit. In this chapter we have seen that we are born because these three gunas, they bind us in a bondage. And because of that bondage, we come into this world. It was also said that the Prakriti, that nature is the yoni, is the place where the conception happens, and the seed comes from the consciousness. And then Lord Krishna has talked about the variety of attributes associated with each of the gunas. That Satgun is nirmal, it gives prakash, it leads to vairagya. Rajogun leads to pravarti, it leads to greed and a lot of work and expectations, desires. And tamogun basically leads to pramad, arashya. So these are the qualities which we have seen and how these can increase and decrease in human body system. Now this is also very clear if we examine the results of modern science. How, because in this verse 19 he says, तीनों गुणों के अतिरिक्त किसी और को करता नहीं समझता, that everything happens within these three attributes of nature which are embedded in the nature which constitutes our body, mind and intellect. So BMI, the body, mind, intellect, the constitution is made of these three gunas and they interact with each other, and as a result we conduct ourselves differently. Now how that happens, how it is proven by modern science. You see, modern science, if somebody is not able to sleep, they can give you a pill and the person will sleep. If somebody is getting angry and upset, there are certain ways through which the hormonal imbalance could be set differently. And the person will not be able to get angry, he will not be able to behave in a very emotional manner. Or it can be other way around also. A person who is not emotional at all, he can be made emotional through hormonal change. There are, for example, we also see the impact of alcohol. Once you consume alcohol, you start behaving differently. Once somebody takes drugs, his behavior becomes very different. There the consciousness remains unaltered. The alteration happens in the body, mind and intellectual constitution of the human being. That constitution, because it runs through these three attributes of nature, it can be modified. And that is how it is very clear that human conduct can be regulated through variety of means outside today. that research has shown us that the consciousness of the human being has nothing to do with his normal conduct, with his anger, with his emotions, with his desires, with his sexual, feelings, with his sleep or lack of sleep, whatever it is. So all those things can be manipulated because you can manipulate these three gunas through certain chemical, ingredients and chemical agents. So this is how it is very clear what Lord Krishna said thousands of years back in time is now very clear that these three gunas, they interact with each other and they lead our behavior. Now here one should also be very clear. For example, if somebody is getting angry and through change of hormones he is made very docile and he is very cool and calm now, it does not mean his behavior has changed apparently, but it does not mean that he has become what you call inward looking. No, that is not true. The behavior has changed only because of the chemical balance has gone under slight change, but it has no relationship with the consciousness. The spirituality doesn't come there. The spirituality comes when the consciousness comes into play, and that plays a role in change of your behavior. When the consciousness acts as a change agent in our conduct, we think, we meditate, and we try to change ourselves. That's a different process. And changing the behavior through chemical agents is a different process. So that difference should be very clear. The spirituality comes only when consciousness comes into play. The previous chapter it was made very clear that Kshetra and Kshetragya, Kshetra is basically, the outside human complex, which is made of three gunas, the nature. And Kshetragya is the one which actually controls everything. It gives life to the nature, which constitutes our body. So that difference should always be very clear. But through these, medical inputs, through these scientific inputs, now it has become very clear that through change within the body complex, we can make human behavior and to undergo a particular change. So this is what here. But here Lord Krishna is saying drashta. The drashta is not there when you use the chemical agents. Here is a drashta tino guno ke अतिरिक्त. So you become sakshi. You are only observer. You are only watching. And all the entity of your body, mind, and intellect, they are absolutely conducting in among themselves. They are changing. They are, altering. Sometimes the sattva is predominant. Sometimes rajogun is predominant. Sometimes tamogun is predominant. It depends on the circumstances. It depends on the time of the day. It depends on interaction with the people. So all that is playing. So what we should do here that we should become observer and we keep watching this conduct of the three attributes of nature within ourselves. Then we are part of the supreme force, Satchitanand Ghan. Then you actually become one, or you unite with the supreme once you segregate your consciousness from the nature. When Kshetragya becomes separate and Kshetra becomes separate and Kshetragya is only observing, in that state you become one with the supreme. So this is the meaning of verse number 19. Now verse number 20. ये पुरुष शरीर की उत्पत्ति के कारण रूप इन तीनों गुणों का उल्लंघन करके जन्म, मृत्यु, वृद्धावस्था और सब प्रकार के दुखों से मुक्त होकर परमानंद को प्राप्त हो जाता है. Now once we can segregate the two, once we become drashta, and the whole body mind complex is the one which is playing, and we are not getting involved into that complex. The Kshetragya is not getting involved into Kshetra. The Kshetragya is only observing. So the consciousness is observing and the body-mind complex is conducting itself. If we can do that segregation in that state, then we will not come back. Because in the very beginning, Lord Krishna said, you are coming back because of the attachment to the three gunas. These three gunas create a sort of situation through which you come into this world. So if you can segregate yourself from these three gunas, then you don't have to come back into the world. And then you can transcend the pain of birth, the pain of death, the pain of old age, and the pain of all the illnesses. Janam, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi. These four things we can transcend, we can go beyond that because we have been able to segregate. These four things happen in Kshetra, not in Kshetragya. Kshetragya is separate from all the four. So this is where Lord Krishna concludes this chapter in a way, but then Arjun is asking a question to which then Lord Krishna will respond. Now Arjun is asking a question. Arjun bole, which is a question which each one of us will, can ask because this is the normal curiosity. इन तीनों गुणों से अतीत पुरुष किन किन लक्षणों से युक्त होता है, किस प्रकार के आचरण वाला होता है, और किन किन उपायों से ये मनुष्य इन तीनों गुणों से दूर चला जाता है. 3 questions is asking here. कि किन किन लक्षणों वाला होता है. What are the symptoms which are visible in that kind of human being? Then what is his conduct, how he conducts himself? And then what are the methods through which you can transcend these 3 gunas? So these, in fact, Lord Krishna has already explained part of it in the previous verses, but he will explain it again. Now, Sri Bhagwan Uach. श्री कृष्ण भगवान बोले, हे अर्जुन, जो पुरुष सत्व गुण के कार्य रूप प्रकाश को, रजोगुण के कार्य रूप प्रवृत्ति को और तमोगुण के कार्य रूप मोह को न तो प्रवृत्त होने पे द्वेष करता है, न निवृत्त होने पे उनकी आकांक्षा करता है. इसमें संस्कृत वर्ड इज प्रकाश न प्रवृत्ति, मोह चैव न पांडव. These are the 3 basic attributes of the 3 gunas. Prakash is the basic attribute of Satgun. Pravritti, that is tendency to work more and more, that is the basic attribute of Rajogun. And Moha means, remain absolutely under spell, without knowing what is wrong, what is right, what should be done, what should not be done. You remain under spell, that Mohini Vrati. That is the primary symptom of Tamogun. So he says that whether these gunas are coming into your conduct, if they are not coming into your conduct, if some guna is increasing, some is decreasing, some is disappearing, some is appearing, you are not concerned with that. You consider that as a theater which is happening. You are sitting outside as an observer, and the play is taking place in the theater. You are watching the theater. You are not getting involved with any of the actors there. You are absolutely unattached, without any attachment to any of the actors. You sit in a cinema hall, you watch a film, you will pass through pain and pleasure if you attach yourself with any of the actors and actresses. But if you do not attach, you just watch absolutely without getting involved, then you are a clear observer. So who is behaving bad, who is behaving in a moral ways, who is not behaving in moral way, Somebody is committing crime, somebody is trying to behave in a fashion to, save others, to protect others, to give shelter to the good people. Now all that is happening in the film, but you are not concerned with all that. So this is what Lord Krishna is repeating here, that these gunas, whether the prakash from the satogun, the pravarti from the rajogun, and moha from the tamogun, if they are increasing, they are decreasing, what is conduct, who is conducting, who is increasing, who is not increasing, whatever happens, you are not concerned with all that. You are just observer. You remain absolutely unattached to any of those tendencies. Then you are, then the symptom is that you are away from the three gunas. So the first question Arjun asked कि किन किन लक्षणों से युक्त होता है. So this is the lakshan. These are the symptoms of the person when he watches the interaction of the three gunas, like we watch a play in the theater without getting attached with any of the players, any of the actors. So this is what he is saying, that you don't have any attachment with any of the three attributes, then you are in that state. In the next verse also, he is further explaining the same thing, the symptoms of a person who has attained or who has transcended the three gunas. Next verse, verse number 23. जो साक्षी के सदृश स्थित हुआ, गुणों के द्वारा विचलित नहीं किया जा सकता और गुण ही गुणों में बरतते हैं, ऐसा समझता हुआ सच्चिदानंद घन परमात्मा में एक ही भाव स्थित रहता है. उस स्थिति से कभी विचलित नहीं होता. दिस इज द सिम्टम. This is the symptom of a person who has transcended all the three attributes of nature. This is also the symptom of the person who is sthit pragya, who has established himself in one particular, in his own consciousness. And he is not, vichlit means he is not being swayed. Nothing can sway him. Outside forces cannot sway him. He remains absolutely static. He remains completely established in his consciousness. So, sakshi ke satra se, you are watching the theater like a true observer, no attachment with any of the players. Gunon se vichlit nahi kiya ja sakta. That none of the acting scene on the theater is not swaying you, not causing any emotional turbulence in your body-mind complex. Because you are all settled, you know that this is only a theater and nothing actually is happening there. And whatever is happening, it is happening. I'm not concerned with all that. So this is what he says. Gun hi gunon mein baratte hain. This is very important. The Sanskrit word is udasin. Udasin means ut asin. This is the ut asin means you are sitting above all these things. Asin means to sit, ut means above. So you actually sit above all the three gunas. You are not getting involved. You are not concerned. Like when you sit in the aircraft, the traffic on the roads doesn't affect you. There's a lot of traffic on the road. But when you are driving on the road, the traffic will impact you. But once you go in a helicopter or aircraft, then that traffic is not impacting you. The same way when you are udasin means you sit up. All the interaction of the three attributes will happen down below. It will not impact you. Like the traffic on the road will not impact you once you are in a helicopter or in the aircraft. The same way, he is telling that you udasin, you go and sit up. Don't get involved with any of those things. Then you will become one with the Supreme. Actually, this is the verse number 23 and verse number 19. They are more or less similar. Lord Krishna is repeating it because Arjun asked that question. Therefore, he had to repeat it. Otherwise, He had conveyed the same meaning in verse number 19. Now verse number 24. जो निरंतर आत्म भाव में स्थित, दुख सुख को समान समझने वाला, मिट्टी पत्थर और स्वर्ण में समान भाव वाला, ज्ञानी प्रिय और अप्रिय को एक सा मानने वाला, निंदा स्तुति में समान भाव वाला. Now, this thing he has already said in chapter 3 and 4, but he is repeating it because of this question. The second question, which is saying किन किन आचरणों वाला होता है. First was किन किन लक्षणों वाला होता है. The second is उसका आचरण कैसा होता है. So the acharan of that person, the conduct of that person is that he has no attachment. He doesn't get involved into dualities. The world is made of dualities. Dukh and sukh, mitti, patthar, priya, apriya, ninda, stuti. These are all dualities. The dualism is the characteristic of this world. In this world, we have, day, we have night, we have light, we have darkness, we have enmity, we have friendship, we have, happiness, we have unhappiness. All these dualities are the characteristic of this world. But a person who is beyond the three attributes of nature, he is not getting involved into this world. He is transcending the characteristics of duality existing in the world. He has nothing to do with all these dualities. And then that is what is called Advait, that you are establishing yourself in one single truth, which is called universal consciousness. You align yourself, you unite yourself with that consciousness, and there's nothing else, no duality exists. So this is what Lord Krishna says, that his conduct would be like this. His conduct would be that he will not get involved in, if somebody is criticizing him, somebody is praising him, somebody is developing friendship with him, somebody is abusing him and, attacking him, or if he gets a lot of money and if he doesn't get any income, he is not concerned with all that. He remains established absolutely in the supreme, in the universal consciousness. So he is repeating in response to the question from Arjun, that this is the kind of conduct he will have. Then again, it is continuation of the same verse number 24. जो मान और अपमान में सम है, मित्र और वैरी में सम है, संपूर्ण आरंभों में कर्तापन के अभिमान से रहित है, वह पुरुष गुणातीत कहा जाता है. His conduct is that he is not concerned whether somebody is praising him or somebody is criticizing him. This is our natural tendency. Somebody praising you, you become interested, you like it, you are happy. Somebody is criticizing you, you dislike it, and you start becoming angry. You react immediately that I'm not, like this, it's not true. And, in fact, sometimes you become angry. So the criticism and praise immediately, though it's only the words, they don't have any, for example, if somebody criticizes you in a language which you don't know, it means nothing to you. Somebody comes and abuses you in German, you have no impact at all. But when somebody criticizes you in the language you know, then, you understand the meaning and you start, because you have become one with that, criticism. The criticism, you have taken it inside yourself, and that is why you are swayed. A person who is beyond that, he will not be swayed. He says, okay, he is doing, let him do whatever he wants to do. I am not concerned with all that. So that is the approach. So he will be away from all kinds of dualities. He will not be concerned with the dualities. So let's repeat them. Sukh and dukh, that is pleasure and pain, and the wealth and lack of wealth, the the person who is pleasant and non-pleasant, the person in praise and criticism, and then your hatred and love, all that do not matter to him. And then last point, which is very important, he says, संपूर्ण आरंभों में कर्तापन के अभिमान से. Now, kartapan ka abhiman must not be there, because Lord Krishna has already said twice in this chapter that gun hi gunon mein barat rahe hain. Everything is happening because of the three attributes of nature. You are not doing anything. The three attributes of the nature are conducting themselves, and they are interacting with each other. And whatever is happening because of that, not because of you. So long as you remain attached to those three attributes, obviously you will be in the picture. But if your chitragya, that is your consciousness, doesn't remain attached, doesn't identify itself with the body mind complex, then you will be away from that whole process, and you will become drashta. You will become absolutely, impartial to what is happening. The outside world will become like a theater without any involvement of yours with any of the actors, with any of the actings. You will be absolutely impartial observer. Then a person is called gunatit. So this is the conduct of a person. So these three questions. The first question was what were the symptoms. The second is what kind of conduct. So the verse number 22 and 23 is they are responding to the first part, that is symptoms. 24 and 25th responding to the conduct, and then 26th will be responding to किन उपायों से इनको what are the methods by which he can transcend these three attributes of nature. So uska he is answering, और जो पुरुष अव्यभिचारी भक्ति योग, अव्यभिचारी भक्ति योग के द्वारा मुझको निरंतर भजता है, वह इन तीनों गुणों से भली भांति लांघ कर सच्चितानंद घन ब्रह्म को प्राप्त होने के योग्य बन जाता है. नाउ द की वर्ड हियर इज अव्यभिचारिणी भक्ति. व्यभिचार is basically multiple things. Vyabhichar means you are thinking of multiple things at a time. For example, our mind keeps vacillating. Sometimes we say, oh, I should approach this guy. Sometimes I should not approach him. Oh, I should do this act. I should not do this act. I should go and meet him. I should not go and meet him. So we keep debating. There are so many ideas keep going on in our mind. Even if when we go for shopping of a shirt, you say, oh, this color is fine. This is not fine. Oh, this is longer. This is shorter. This doesn't look. There also we have this conduct. There's too many ideas keep coming in our mind. So that is vyabhicharani. Now, finally, when you come down to one particular shirt you like, then that vyabhicharani thing goes away. It becomes avyabhicharani. You actually finally pinpoint that this is what I like. Then you remain what you call ekatva. You go into one unity. And that ekatva, unity, one single focus, that is avyabhicharani. Then you have gone away from all these multiple choices which were debating in your mind and in your intellect all the time. And finally, you pinpoint yourself, or you decide, in your mind to go for one particular shirt. Then that is, you have become avyabhicharani at that point of time. Before that, you are having vyabhicharani conduct. So the conduct should be avyabhicharani. Avyabhicharani bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga means you are all the time dedicated to the Supreme. And in avyabhicharani means without deviating from him anywhere else. It is the same example which I would like to repeat, that a mother has a small child The child is, in the house, the mother has to do household work. So she goes in the kitchen, she goes in the bathroom, she goes in the toilet, she goes in the bedroom. She does all the things, but her mind is all the time with the child. She will keep monitoring in her mind the movement of the child, that the child is not eating something undesirable. He's not going in a corner where he can get hurt. He's not, moving here and there, or he's not climbing up where he can fall down. So her mind is all the time constantly with the child. So that is avabhicharani. While you are doing a lot of other things. Also in Rajasthan, we have this old tradition. The ladies have 3, 4 pots of water on their head. They go to the well and they fill 3 pots, 4 pots, and they one after another on top of the head. Now, when they walk back to their homes from the well, the ladies are talking, they are discussing things. Sometimes they get even angry with each other, but their mind is constantly with those pots of water. They should not fall down. So that is avabhicharani. You are doing all things. We are doing everything in the world. We are meeting our friends, we are doing our job, we are interacting with our neighbor, we are discharging our duties in the family, with your wife, with your children, with your parents, and we are doing all variety of things in the world, but constantly keeping the supreme in the mind, keeping that in mind that he is the source of everything and I am part of that source. Keeping that in mind constantly is avabhicharani bhakti. You don't have to sit in a temple and do puja. If you are constantly keeping the supreme in the mind, the puja, what we do is the rituals we perform, they are a method to make you spiritual. They are a method to attract you to the supreme so that you gradually gravitate toward the supreme and become one with him, so you become spiritual. So the rituals which you perform, they should lead you to spirituality. If they are not leading you to spirituality, then those rituals which you are performing are not uh, good enough. So the actual action or actual final conclusion of this chapter is this verse, अव्यभिचारिणी भक्ति योग के द्वारा, that you do everything because you are not doing anything. Everything is being done by the three attributes of nature, Sat, Raj, and Tam. They are interacting and they are doing everything. You are not doing everything. So you detach yourself. You are not the doer. This is what you said in the previous verse. संपूर्ण आरंभों में कर्तापन का अभिमान गायब, that you are not doing anything. Everything is happening because of the three attributes of nature. Then what are you doing? You are doing one single thing, that is, you are all the time constantly remain united with the Supreme, that He is the source of my origin, He is the source of my life, He is the source of all that I am conducting, He will be all the time with me. Now, that kind of approach is the one which will ultimately help us in transcending the nature which is made of the three attributes. So, this is what Lord Krishna is saying, avabhicharani bhakti. So, the two things, akarta and avabhicharani bhakti, these two keywords are good enough for us to take us or to unite us with the Supreme. Now, the last verse of this chapter, क्योंकि उस अविनाशी परम ब्रह्म का और अमृत का तथा नित्य धर्म का और अखंड एक रस आनंद का आश्रय मैं हूं. मैं का मतलब परमात्मा है. He is talking as Paramatma here. He is not talking as Krishna. When he says "मैं हूँ" means he is talking as Brahma, as the supreme force. So he says that everything, whether it is whatever comes, is originating from there. So you don't have to worry. You just concentrate on me. You unite with me, leave the Kartapan, and consider that whatever is happening in this world is happening because of the interaction of the three gunas. They are interacting with each other. The Sat, Raj, and Tam, they are interacting. When the two people fight on TV debates, many people keep fighting. So their Sat, Raj, and Tam Gun is fighting. The Supreme is not fighting. All of them also have the Supreme in their body mind complex, which is behind that. The consciousness is there, but the consciousness is not involved. What is involved is these three gunas, and the three gunas are fighting against each other. They fight, somebody is, abusing another, somebody is defending, somebody is acting, somebody is sleeping. All that is happening because of the attributes of the nature which are constituted by these three gunas. So these two keywords here. The first is you have nothing to do with what is happening. It is happening because of the three gunas of the nature. गुण ही गुणों में बरत रहे हैं. I am not doing anything. I am only observing. And I am established firmly in the Supreme. I am in union with Him. I all the time think that He is behind me. So that consciousness that He is the one who is keeping me here, He is the one who is sustaining me, He is the one who is directing me, He is the one who is conducting everything what is happening in the world. That kind of thinking, that kind of awareness ultimately leads us to transcend these three gunas. So now we conclude this chapter here. Gun Tray Vibhag Yogo. This chapter, Gun Tray Vibhag Yogo, is now concluded today. So before I stop talking, I would like to repeat that the chapter number 13 and 14, and the next chapter 15 will come further down. The chapter number 13 gave us a very clear distinction between nature and consciousness. And it also told us how nature keeps changing and how the 24 variations of nature ultimately, are reflected in the entire universe. Whatever we see in the form of manifestation, there is nothing but the 24 variations of the nature. And the consciousness is not visible. It is wherever we see life, in lower form or higher form, that life comes from the consciousness. And our conduct is regulated by the three attributes of nature. We are not doing, we get attached to, actually, the consciousness get attached to the body mind complex so closely that we start thinking that I am doing everything or I am not doing whatever it is. The attachment is there. If we can remove that attachment, and if we think that whatever is happening because of the three attributes of nature and I have nothing to do with it, then I think we are transcending that state and we are already in a state of total moksha, total liberation. So I would like to conclude this chapter here. Thank you very much for joining every Saturday so religiously, and let us continue next week onwards our journey on Bhagavad Gita from chapter 15th. If you have any queries now, I would try to answer them as much as I can. Thank you so much.